All right, so the CTSA means Clinical and Translational Science Award. Most of you know what that is, but the idea is, and this is an idea which was re-emphasized by Trump in one of his complaining sessions about the medical world. We're doing a lot of biological bench research on new kinds of drugs and so forth. And that work is designed ultimately to help clinical care. And the gap between bench biology and clinical care is very wide. And so the goal of the CTSA idea, which was started way before Trump, is to try and make this gap narrower. Sorry, I moved my arms too much, I know. And we all think that ontology is one way in which we can make this gap narrower. And the CTS organization, which is NCATS, which is one of the NIH institutes, thinks that a goal of all the CTSA hubs should be to demonstrate that they are working with other CTSA hubs. So the idea is that you get more value from these 64. How many is it currently? Anyone know? Anyway, at least 64 organizations, large medical school organizations all over the country. They're all doing work which overlaps, as we are demonstrating increasingly as we go through the day. But there's no effort to make this work more successfully. And so we are trying to be part of such an effort by leveraging ontology across the CTSA ecosystem in such a way that the data created through the bench biology research and also through the clinical research becomes interoperable, so that I can share Oliver's data and Oliver can share Alex's data and so forth. And the result then will be more than the sum of its parts. Now, so we've established CTSOC, and to leverage ontology across the ecosystem, we are going to continue doing what we've been doing for the last 12 years or so, namely create ontologies in relation to specific areas or using specific kinds of technology in such a way that multiple CTSA hubs are involved. And now we're trying to push further out. And so my first request from all of you is, do you know people who are doing ontology in CTSA hubs who are not on this list? This is the list of CTSA members at the moment. It's also on your program, which you should have received a copy of. If you know of people doing ontology anywhere else, Duke was once a member of this consortium, but then the leader of the Duke ontology world moved back to his old job at the National Cancer Institute. And so we can't find anyone in Duke to take over from him. Do you know people at other institutions? If you do, then write to me. And so we're very happy that Duke was actually replaced by San Diego, who is sitting over here. All right, now we are all doing ontology work. The collaborations I'm involved with are the vaccine ontology, the infectious disease ontology, the pathogen reference ontology suite. All of those are involved. Michigan, Florida is involved in 2 of them. And then we're a little bit involved in the pain ontology, although we want to be more involved in that. You've seen the injury ontology. We have resuscitated active development of OGMs. And the nice thing is that Richard Scheuermann, who is now the science director for the National Library of Medicine, is an active member of that working group. And you're all welcome to that working group. It's a really interesting, and we hope, important project in that it's going to extend the influence of well-architected ontologies further in the direction of clinical care. So most of our important successes have been at the bench biology stage. And that's for all kinds of reasons having to do with money and so forth. And then we have two new, then we are working on the ontology of medical-related social entities, which involves Bill, and the ontology for biomedical investigations, which involves all of these people. And that brings me to, I must be very careful here because this thing has funny buttons. So new initiatives. So I would like to propose, and this is a very weak proposal because I have no idea how to do it, an ontology of uses of AI in medicine or in medical research or in biomedical research. I think we need something like that, and we may come back to talk about it in a few minutes. Then we have two activities going on with the dental school here in Buffalo on a chronic overlapping pain condition ontology and a temporomandibular disorder ontology, but they overlap. And then we have two ontology projects in the gerontology branch of ontology, which are the solitude ontology and the gero, is it gero or gero? Gero transcendence ontology, which you can talk to John Beverly about. He's sitting at the back there, rapidly aging. Yeah. All right, now, so just some thoughts. The idea for this came to me when we first received the award. I was in charge of I'm co-director of the informatics core here in Buffalo for the Buffalo CTSA. So what should I do? Well, people had been approaching me who were working in medicine, and they were being told that they had to do something with AI. I was told that I had to include a section on AI in my proposal for the informatics core. And I'm really interested in failure. And my idea was that lots of people who know very little about AI are being encouraged to use AI in their work in medicine or anywhere else. And they start doing things which have already been shown by other people over and over again to lead to failure. And one example, which is not quite so well known perhaps, is that when you use AI in your research, it makes replication of your research more difficult. And people don't realize this. And replication is an important aspect of replicability, is an important aspect of medical research. So what my idea was that we should collect an ontology of uses of medicine and give them marks according to whether they lead to successful or to failed research. In other words, give them marks according to whether they did indeed work or not. That was my idea. And I thought, since that's what I do, that the way to address that issue, namely collect some kind of guide information for new users of AI as to which kinds of uses of AI work, I thought that the way to do that would be to build an ontology of uses of AI in medicine. I don't think it's a good idea anymore, having tried to do it. There are far too many dimensions. And I think the most that we might be able to do is to build an extension of OBI, which would include terms for the principal uses of AI in medicine, or in biomedicine, or in biomedical investigations. I don't see yet how we can cover the failure side. People don't like talking about their failures. And so people never publish about their failures. So you can't get you can't use a literature search in order to identify failed uses of AI. So I still think it's an interesting and valuable idea that we should publicize uses of AI that actually you should be careful to avoid, or you should be careful to do properly. And so what we did do is we interviewed people here in UB about their uses of AI, people who've been using AI over many years. And we did get some interesting information about failures from those interviews, but that doesn't scale. All right. So I'm going to end here. Just two other things. Bill mentioned that we had a meeting on the use of ontology to improve evaluation of CTSA work. So every CTSA hub has to have an evaluation component. In UB, the evaluation component is, I think, it's strange. So the part of it is counting the number of times you received a request for help. And the idea is that if you have a CTSA which is bridging the gap between bench biology and medicine, then you will have lots of exchanges of information in both directions. And so you measure the number of requests for such exchanges. I think that is, it's not to me an obviously useful evaluation metric. And so one of the ideas which I am going to be exploring in the next couple of years is to build an ontology of impact of medical care and of clinical research and of biomedical research. So there is a group in Toronto, which here in Buffalo, we exchange ontology ideas with. We created something called the BOAT, because we cross lake ontology backwards and forwards at periodical intervals. He doesn't like any of my jokes. So the Buffalo-Toronto Ontology Alliance, Toronto has a really good suite of impact ontologies, not for healthcare, but for social services and things like that. And so we're going to work with them in order to build an impact ontology or several impact ontologies for clinical and translational science. And the idea is that we will apply this ontology each to our own hub. If the ontology gets to the point where it's useful for measuring impact of things like CTSA hubs, then we will so use it to measure the impact of your own work, use it to measure the impact of your CTSA, and then you use it to measure the impact of NCATS. And then the NIH, what is the impact of the NIH? In principle, it should be possible to sum the impacts from lower level organizations in order to create an impact metric for higher level organizations. I have no idea. That didn't stop me in the past. So, all right. So any questions for either of us?